not 2. Write equations in slope-intercept form. In this lesson, we're going to write equations in slope-intercept form given 2 points. There is a warm-up in this lesson. Mrs. McDowell will walk around and check and see how you do on it. So open up your workbook to page 33 and complete the warm-up, and then continue on with your notes. So pause the video for just a couple minutes and complete the warm-up. Writing a linear function given 2 points.
Excuse the interruption.
Writing a linear function given 2 points. You're going to use the equation y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. You'll need to find these 2 unknowns for every equation. So you're always going to be looking for the slope and the y-intercept. The slope, the m, that's the rise over the run, and that's found by y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And the y-intercept, that's the point 0 and some number. And that's usually found using the actual equation y equals mx plus b, and you solve for the b. So usually what you do is you plug in y, m, and x, and you solve for b.
Please excuse this interruption. Students, if you have a wristband that...
Okay, here's our first example. We're going to do 4 of these. The first one, given 2 points. The first one, -2, 5, and the second one, 2, -1. So in the first point, -2 and 5, ordered pairs are always x and then y. We're going to call this one x1, y1. And then the second point, we're going to call the ordered pair x2, y2. Okay, the little 1s and 2s just stand for the 1 stand for the first point and the 2 stand for the second point. So the first thing that we're going to find is our slope. And the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're going to plug in our y's on the top and our x's on the bottom. So on the top, I'm plugging in my y's. Now we start with the y2 and go to the y1. So I'm going to start with -1, and then minus, that's the formula, 5. And then on the bottom, I'm going to plug in my x's. So on the bottom, I'm going to plug in the 2 and the -2. And be careful with the signs. So on the bottom, I'm saying 2, and then minus, that's what our formula says, minus, and then it's a -2. And then I'm going to calculate that. So the slope equals -1 minus 5 is -6, divided by 2 minus -2. Well, minus a negative is a plus, really, so that's 2 plus 2, so that comes out 4. Now that fraction reduces And that fraction reduces down to -3 over 2. Okay, so that's how we find our slope, our m. Now we need to find the b. Okay, to find the b, we're going to use the equation y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to start over again with these points. To do this, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in y, m, and x into our equation. The m is what we just found out, the -3 over 2. And the y and the x you get from one of your order points, one of your order pairs. And you get, since you have 2 order pairs there, you get to pick which order pair you want to use. Okay, so we're going to choose. So I'm going to pick the negative, or the 2 and the -1. So I'm going to choose my x and y, and I'm going to choose the 2, -1. Okay, so 2 is going to be the x, and y is going to be -1, and we already found our slope was -3 over 2. Okay, we're going to plug that into our equation. So I'm going to take my equation, and where it says y, the equation says y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to replace my y, my m, and my x. So in place of y, I'm going to plug in -1. In place of m, I'm going to plug in -3 over 2. In place of x, I'm going to plug in 2. And then plus b. And now I'm going to solve for b. Okay, so I'm bringing down the -1. Now I'm going to multiply -3/2 times 2. So let me open my calculator here. Okay, so I'm plugging in my calculator, -3 divided by 2 for -3/2, and then times 2. And that's giving me -3. Okay, so I got -3 divided by 2 times 2, and that came out to -3. So this step right here, this came out to -3, and then I have plus b. And I'm solving that equation for b. So now I want to do the opposite of, since I'm solving for b, I want to do the opposite of the -3, so I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So that way the 3 cancels out, and I'm left with just b. So -1 now plus 3, and that comes out to 2. Okay, so now I have my slope, my m, and I have my b. So now I'm ready to write the equation. And the equation is y equals -3/2 x plus 2. Okay, that's the first example. I believe you did this last year, but you might not remember it. It's usually in your module 4 last year. Okay, so let's do another example of that. And the more of these we do, the more you're going to catch on. Okay, so again, we're going to find our slope. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. So first thing we want to do is find the slope. We use our slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to plug in my y values on the top. These are the y values. I'm going to plug those in first. And you always start with the second one. So that means I'm going to plug in -9 first. So -9, and then minus, that's what the formula says, -3. Divided by, now I'm going to work with my x's, which are the -1 and the -8, but you start with the second one. So -8 minus -1. Okay, so -9 minus -3, that's really -9 plus 3. That's going to come out to -6. And -8 plus 1, because minus negative is plus, that's going to come out to -7. Okay, and 2 negatives is a positive, so really our slope here is 6/7. Okay, so that's the slope. Now I gotta find b. So to find b, I'm going to use the equation y equals mx plus b. So what you do is you take the y, the m, and the x, and you substitute for those three. The y and the x come from one of your ordered pairs. You get to choose which one. And the m is the answer that you just got. Okay, so for x and for y, I'm going to choose the -1 and the -3. Just because I like the smaller numbers. You get to choose either one, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to choose -1, -3, so that's what I'm going to use for my x and my y. So for my x and my y, I'm going to use -1, -3, and then remember for the m, we got 6/7. So that's everything I'm going to plug in. Okay, so looking at this equation, for y, I'm going to put -3. For m, I'm going to put 6/7. And for x, I'm going to put -1. And then plus b. B is what we're trying to solve for. Okay, first step, multiply. 6/7 times -1 is -6/7. Okay, when you try to solve for b, you have to get rid of, in this case, we have to get rid of the -6/7 here. So we have to do the opposite of it. So we're going to add 6/7 to both sides. So I'm going to grab my calculator. And I'll put in my calculator -3 plus 6/7. And you can either do 6 divided by 7 and then enter. And you get a decimal, but you can do math, enter, enter, and it'll turn into a fraction, -15/7. Or, the other way to put it in the calculator is to say -3 plus, and then use alpha y equals, enter, and it gives you the fraction template. And we'll put 6 over 7. Enter. And it gives you just the fraction answer. You should practice that. Make sure you know how to use that fraction key. Or make sure you know how to turn a decimal into a fraction. Okay, so now my answer, now that I have my M and my B, my actual answer for this problem is y equals 6/7 x minus 15/7. Okay, our answer is an equation. Okay, let's try it again. If you want, you can pause and see if you can do this one without me. See if you can do it before I do it. So this is x1, y1, x2, y2. So first thing I'm going to do is the slope. That formula is y2 minus y1, x2 minus y2. Oh my goodness gracious, x2 minus y1. My goodness, I'm getting all messed up here. x1. Okay, so start with our y's. So these ones right here. Always start with the second one. So -2 minus 10 divided by 4 minus -2. So on the top we'll get -12, and on the bottom we'll get 6. Well, that's dividing to a nice number. That was just -2. -12 divided by 6 is -2. Okay. Now we're going to get B. To get B, you use the equation y equals mx plus b. Again, you get to choose a point, whatever one you want. I'm going to use for my x and my y, my point, I'm going to use the point for -2. And then for m, you use your answer, -2. Okay, we're going to plug it into the y equals mx plus b. So for my y, I'm going to plug in -2. For my m, I'm plugging in, oh, it's also a -2. And then for my x, I'm plugging in 4 plus b. Okay, so now simplify it. -2, multiply it, -8 plus b. Now you're both solving for b, so I have to do the opposite of -8, which is add 8 to both sides of the equals. That cancels out. This one's easy because there's no fractions. -2 plus 8 is 6. Okay, the answer, y equals -2x plus 6. All right, one last one. Uh-oh, it's a story problem. Same idea, it's just that you got to put the numbers together from the story into ordered pairs. In BMX racing, racers purchase a 1-year membership to a track. They also pay an entrance fee for each race. One racer paid a total of $125 after 5 races. So that means that they had 5 races and then they paid $125. So the ordered pair is 5 races and it costs $125. Okay, so first they race, in this case 5 races, and then they got to pay. The second racer paid a total of $170, but what was that total for? 8 races. Okay, so they raced 8 times, paid $170. Okay, so there's our ordered pairs. Now what is it telling us to do? A couple things. One, write a linear function. That's the equation. Function is an equation. That's what we've been doing to model the situation. Then, second thing that it asks us to do, determine the cost of the track membership and the entrance fee per race. Okay, so this is really asking us to do 2 more things. Figure out the cost of the track membership and the entry fee per race. So 2 has an A and a B, the membership cost and the entry fee per race. Okay? So to write the equation, we have to do our y equals mx plus b. So we start off with our slope. Okay, we've got our x1, y1, x2, y2. So that means I'm doing my 170 minus 125 divided by 8 minus 5. So 170 minus 125 is 45. And 8 minus 5 is 3. And 45 divided by 3 is 15. So our slope is 15. Okay, secondly, we got to find our b now. So we use our y equals mx plus b. And with that, we need to decide which ordered pair we're going to use. So what are we going to use for x and for y? And I'm going to pick the smaller numbers, 5 and 125. And then for m, I'm using 15. And then we're solving for b. Okay, so for y, I'm plugging in the 125. For m, I'm plugging in the 15. And for x, I'm plugging in the 5. Solve for b. Okay, multiply first. And then do the opposite. So that cancels out. 125 minus 75 is 50. So b is 50. So the equation, which was the first thing we had to find out, is y equals 15x plus 50. So that's the equation. Now, each of the numbers in the equation mean something, and they're actually the answers to the next part. We just have to figure out which one's which. One of them is the track membership, and one of them is the entry fee per race. So what you have to understand is which number is happening one time and which number is happening over and over again. Well, the $50 doesn't have a variable with it, so it's only happening one time. So $50 is how much you're paying for the membership fee. Okay, so $50, that's the membership fee. On the other hand, the 15, that's getting multiplied. That's how much you have to pay every single time you race. So So that's the per race entry fee. Okay, so 15. It costs $15 per race. So for example, if I wanted to verify the 5 and 125, if I did 15 times 5 plus 50, that should come out to 125. Or if I wanted to verify the 170, I should be able to do 15 times 8 plus 50, and that should come out to 170. Okay, so that's all of our answers right there. All right, that's today's lesson. If you have any questions, make sure you ask Mrs. McDonald.